started to see myself kind of repeating patterns. It was kind of like Groundhog Day, like doing the same thing every day. And I literally saw this ad on Facebook and I started jumping around the room and dancing. I didn't tell my boss, I didn't tell my girlfriend, I just had to do it.
So, Patrick, we just finished up Tony Robbins, Unleash the Power Within. This is, I think, your 20th Tony Robbins event in 6 years. What was your biggest takeaway from this event? And what are maybe some of your takeaways from all the experiences you've had going to Tony Robbins over the last couple of years?
Yeah, so what you said is true. This is my 20th event. I've had a ton of fun going to Tony. So that's the first thing. Is It's always fun to be back in this environment and be around people that are just like wanting to change and wanting to make their life more expansive. This particular one, I'm conditioning more to step into the person I really want to become, which is someone that is doing more podcasts like this, that is sharing all these things I've learned over the past several years. And I also am working on breaking patterns. Like, it's actually really great that we're doing this podcast today because I want to be putting my voice on the internet more and sharing more content with people. And I want to be creating more of my voice out in the world. Um, and that's a pattern that I really am going to work on from this event. And then lastly, energy, like just really like showing up in a positive energy more, and just working on that pattern as well is something I'm taking away from this event.
And didn't Tony just fix you the first time, or why did it take 20 events?
Well, the thing is, people ask me that a lot. Why do you continue going back? Why do you continue doing these things? And it's like, well, did you go to the gym and just go to the gym once and you had like this rock star body? No, you have to condition, you have to practice. And each and every time, not only that, I'm going through a different thing in my life. I'm working on different parts of my life. I'm working on relationships. I'm working on business. I'm working on wealth. So you get more out of it because what you're learning through the program plus what you're going through in life starts to anchor in those lessons that you can take to that area of your life. So it's also too, I'm able to like repeat what the program is a lot more effectively. Because if you just listen to something once, can you sit there and repeat it to somebody else? But if you can do it over and over again and practice, then you can start to teach it to other people.
Yeah, that's really good. So one of the things that I want to talk about is related to breaking patterns. And so I think a lot of people are in a pattern of maybe a life that they're not happy with. They have dreams of things they'd like to do, if it's being a digital nomad, going to see Tony Robbins, starting a business, starting a podcast, whatever it happens to be. Why don't we just go back a few years to, I know you were living in New York for a little bit and had a life there, patterns there. And why don't we talk through that situation, the patterns you were in, and then what actually got you out of that pattern to do something different?
For sure. So yeah, let's actually rewind. Let's even rewind like 10 years. I ended up moving to New York and I loved living in New York. I never really thought I would end up living in New York City. I think you said you lived in New York City as
Yeah.
well. And it's an area of the world and it's a city that will make you grow in ways that many places won't. So that already kind of started me on this path of personal development, just living in New York. Maybe not even becoming conscious that I needed to grow, but that was pretty cool to live there. I ended up working at a small startup company at the time, and I was like their 20th or 21st employee. I got to do a ton of stuff. I had a lot of fun, and I learned a lot. I ended up working underneath a PhD and learned a ton. But after 4 or 5 years living there and working there, I started to see myself feeling frustrated. I started to see myself kind of repeating patterns. It was kind of like Groundhog Day, like doing the same thing every day. And I just kind of like felt that I was starting to get pigeonholed. Like as a small startup company, I got to do a lot of things. And then as we hired more and more people, I started getting to do less and less. And that started to make me frustrated and actually got me to the point where I was like, I got to make another change, which is to leave that job and do something else.
Okay. And how did you come up with the next step?
It was a deep period of inner reflection and questioning. I was not really sure what to do at the time. This is about 2015 or so, somewhere in there. And I, on paper, had a life that looked really awesome. Like I was living in a high rise apartment building in Manhattan. I had a girlfriend. I had a job that was paying me, I don't know, $150,000 a year, which seems like a lot, but in New York City is not that much. But it was on paper really good. And I started questioning, like, what do I do next? Like, how do I make a life that I actually want to be living? How do I feel fulfilled? How do I like feel happy? And I wasn't even knowing what to do. I started wondering, should I go to an MBA? I started wondering, should I join the military? I started wondering, should I go get another job? And it was actually a conversation with a friend. And he's like, don't go get an MBA. Don't spend $100,000 to go get an MBA. Just go travel around the world for 15, 20,000 for a year. And I promise you, you're going to get more experience than you would have getting that MBA. And I do believe that. I got to travel. I got to meet people, and I started using social media actually as a way to grow and create a new life as well.
What was the tipping point, or at what moment did you know I imagine it wasn't just that conversation. You're like, okay, tomorrow I'm putting in my 2-week notice, time to go. How did you actually make that decision? How long did it take?
So as I was questioning and wondering all of those things, what should I do? I was actually on a business trip and I was out west in the United States and I was in a hotel room and I saw an ad for Nomad Cruise. And you and I believe, met on Nomad Cruise.
Yeah, I've been on 2 of them now.
They're really fun. There are these conferences where you surround yourself with digital nomads and freedom seeking entrepreneurs. And I had seen the digital nomad life on YouTube and I knew I could make it happen, but I didn't necessarily know how. And I literally saw this ad on Facebook and I started jumping around the room and dancing. I felt this expansive energy come through me. And I was like, that's it. That's what I have to do. And I booked it right then and there. I didn't tell my boss. I didn't tell my girlfriend. I just had to do it.
Yeah. There's so much to unpack there, but I think the energy is one thing that I want to talk about more. Where, I think if you're in a low energetic state, you're kind of going through Groundhog's Day, the same day over and over, work that you're not happy with. It's hard from that place to actually make a change, and so besides just like seeing, like having fall in your lap this ad that's like, this is the answer that I've been looking for. I'm going to pay for it right now, and that emotion got you there. How could somebody themselves in that situation to make a change that they just want all their ducks in a row before deciding to travel the world for a year or whatever that happens to be? How could somebody get in the right state and also be ready to make a decision like that?
Yeah, I think a few things here. One's starting to ask questions like, what kind of life do I want to be living? Am I actually happy with what I'm doing? Do I feel fulfilled? Those are some deep introspective questions. And actually, I'll give your audience my ebook. It's called The Rise, and it helps you actually go through some of those questions that you can start to answer. And I think a lot of people like, you're like, oh, is the MBA the answer? Should I go spend $100,000 to go get more training? How about you just recognize what you're already really good at?
Yeah,
How
my
about you
my
already?
mine mine costs more than that, unfortunately. So it is quite an expensive investment, and so there are tons of other opportunities, I think, for somebody to figure out what that is. One of the things that you were mentioning too, of like imagining, coming up and asking questions, and this future idea of like what the life is like. So like interview digital nomads or whatever that is, so you can imagine that life that you want, and then also maybe imagining what would happen if you spent another 5 years in the same job, and what would that look like, and kind of seeing the separation, I think, between those two areas of, if I, go at the status quo, what is my life, and then imagining that future life that you want to live.
Yeah, one of the things that Tony said during this UPW that we were just at was your destiny is shaped by moments of decision. And destiny sometimes is a crazy word for people. So if you think like, where do I want to be later in life? Where am I going? And what kind of life do I want to be living? Decisions you make today and the awareness you have today is going to shape where you're going. And I started to see like, if I continue being frustrated and staying in this job every day the way I am, I'm just going to continue being frustrated 10 years from now and not be where I want to be. So that decision to act on that ad and actually go after Nomad Cruise was a really powerful one.
Yeah, and then not making a decision is also a decision, just sticking with the status quo.
Yep.
And so every day that you wait of sticking with that, obviously it makes it more difficult to leave potentially. And and then after making that decision, what happened from there?
So it took a while. It took about 6 months from the moment of that ad to actually leaving. So I had to start to get rid of all my stuff that was weighing me down. Like all this stuff from actually college was living in New York City. I'm like, why do I have all this crap that's not that valuable? I had to start to get rid of a lot of stuff that I didn't need. I had to tell my girlfriend at the time that I was leaving. I actually gave my company 3 months notice. I really wanted to like leave on good terms. And then I left and I flew to Cartagena, Colombia, and surrounded myself with people that had this expansive and freedom driven mindset. And I started to get excited more about life again. And I started to just learn. And that's really where it started.
So I think the making the decision, booking the trip, getting rid of your things, breaking up, or telling your girlfriend you're leaving. I don't know if the breakup
It was a
necessarily
long
happened then,
process,
but
but yeah.
and then one of the other things from the event is the kind of proximity principle. And so I imagine going somewhere like the Nomad Cruise where you see all these people that are living the life that you want to live. How was that helpful? Because I think one of the things that I always notice from some of the courses that we offer or things like that, are people feel alone with the crazy idea that they have that everyone else tries to talk them out of, if it's being a digital nomad or starting a YouTube channel or starting some type of business. And how did immediately surrounding yourself with a bunch of like-minded individuals help you kind of continue that journey?
Well, you become who you surround yourself with. So I knew I wanted to be a digital nomad traveling the world. You and I are literally living proof of this sitting here right now. We're in Cologne, Germany, doing a podcast where we could be doing this in New York City if we had another quote unquote normal job, but we get
But
to
then we wouldn't
travel.
have podcasts, probably.
Probably not. But we get to travel and we get to create content and we get to work from our laptop. And if you want to do that, you got to have other people around you that are telling you it's possible, that are showing you the way. And it was actually several conversations that got me from going and not posting on social media, not doing any of that, to literally posting on social media every day for like 6 months straight. And that had profound effects both on myself, my audience, and what I was doing. And it started to shift me as well.
And then what happened at that point? So went on the cruise, surrounded by a bunch of other people. Did you find some type of remote job, or what were you then doing professionally? Or is it just, hey, I'm traveling the world for a year and I'm going to figure this stuff out later?
So the first 3 months was just exploring and trying to figure it out. And one thing I think that's important is if you're going to go do this and you start this process, it's an emotional roller coaster. There were days where it was amazing and trying to figure it out and hiking mountains in Portugal and getting on trains and going around Europe. I did that for about 3 months. And then there were days where it was really a struggle and like I'm lonely. I miss my ex girlfriend. That was a whole theme for about 2 years. And it's definitely was an emotional struggle. But as I started to try to figure it out, I started to recognize more, okay, like I have these software engineering skills. I started to get a couple clients and I started to use what I already knew to start to make money online. And I'm very grateful for a couple clients that kind of like got me through about 5 years actually. I didn't have to do too much marketing and sales for like 5 years because that's how I pay my bills. And that was a lot of fun, and they gave me the freedom to live the life I wanted to be living. But that goes back to recognizing that I already knew these software skills that I could leverage.
Yeah. That reminds me of, there was some talk during my MBA actually. Somebody that I don't know had graduated years before was mentioning that I think that there were three things you could change. So you could change the industry, your role, or the location. And it's really hard to change all three of those at the same time. And so I want to be a digital nomad, but then I want to be, some random new role is probably really, really difficult. Versus maybe if you stay in the same company and you're like, hey, I'm doing a good job at this. Can I change roles? And I think that's really good as in terms of, hey, I have this skill set. I'm going to do this remotely. How can I apply that and get that first job? But I think where you are now, you're doing some stuff that's software related, and then a bunch of other different things. What are some of the things that you're working on, and how did you begin to transition away from the software role?
Well, I still do software. I just don't. I it kind of this is a progression too. Once you make that jump, you I started to get a couple clients that I started to work for. That you become more of a freelancer. Now you're like working for someone else. You're trying to get their product built. They're telling you what to do, just kind of like an employee of a company, except now you have more freedom and autonomy to do it in the way that you want. And then you go down that path and you start to become an entrepreneur. An entrepreneur becomes when you start to sell your own products, your own services, and be the creator of your business. And I started to take what I was learning from Tony Robbins. I started to take what I was learning from software and everything else I had done and mix it all together to create. Created a mastermind called Entrepreneur Circle, and I started to teach people how to like take their ideas and turn them into income, so that they could actually take what they knew and what they're already good at and turn it into something that would create income, so it could travel the world and have more freedom like we do.
Okay. No, I really like that. And then so you mentioned some of the like how um so you were kind of just doing similar job as far as being an engineer and having a couple of clients, traveling a little bit. And then what gave you the confidence to go to the next level? Was it, discovering Tony Robbins and other things kind of allowing you to think larger, to level up? What made that change from, hey, I'm a software engineer to, I'm running a mastermind. And I know that
Yeah.
you're part of remember you were talking about the event you have like a week long mastermind on a sailboat in Croatia.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a bit of a jump from what you were doing before. And so what gave you the confidence to make that switch, and how did that progress?
So the first year after I quit my job, I started to, in addition to working for clients remotely, I started to explore. I started to use photography as one important tool, actually. And I started to go on other retreats. I started to see how other people use retreats as a way to teach people. And I would get to go on these retreats in different countries like Mexico and Bali. And actually, that reminded me that I got to surround myself with higher level entrepreneurs by doing that. I got to go to Thailand and just surround myself with these like high level people that are paying like 5,000 to go to something called Abundant Circle. And that really inspired me and gave me the ideas to start to do that myself. Once I had the ideas to create retreats and travel experiences to teach other people, the confidence was a big part of it as well. So posting on social media was a good tool to start to build more confidence and overcome judgment. I think that's something a lot of people struggle with on social media is judgment and what are other people going to say about what you have to say on social media. So that was helpful to kind of start to build that confidence. And then it was Tony Robbins and Mind Valley and a few other events that started to get me to shift that energy and gave me more tools to regulate my emotional state, to feel more confident showing up, and to start to build my own products and services.
Really interesting. And then one of the other things I think we talked about, was it yesterday, or the day before, around mastery of figuring out, yeah, who's the best in the world at something, how can I learn from them? How can I immerse myself? And so why don't maybe talk a little bit about that process of some of the other people you surrounded yourself with, how they gave you the playbook to then begin to do it, to begin to launch events.
Yeah, so I mean, let's talk about two different people that both of us know clearly. One is Johannes. He created Nomad Cruise, which was this amazing travel experience, and he was took his idea and created something that provided a space for all of us to expand and grow. And quite honestly, I think he's one of the best in the world for digital nomads to create spaces for them to grow and expand. So I was really inspired by him, and I was inspired by what he had created, and I was like, I want to create something similar. That's where that boat trip in Croatia kind of came from. Is like I want to do a mini version of this. It's a little more intimate, but it has the same kind of idea and energy around it. And then Tony Robbins, let's go with him too. Like he is at this point wealthy. He doesn't have to be doing what he's doing. He doesn't have to be showing up on stage and being on stage for 15 hours talking to us. But he's doing it because he wants to be of service and he wants other people to expand and grow and go down the path that he went down. And I really appreciate that. I do believe he's the best in the world at what he's doing, teaching mindset, teaching beliefs, teaching values, teaching things to actually create a life that you truly love and are fulfilled by. I know there are other people doing this in the world, but I don't know of another person that has created the impact and done it in the way where it's a very grounded and purposeful community, as well as teaching the skills and helping people master those things in their life. So I've just continued to surround myself with the people that are doing the best in the world at these things that I'm interested in.
That's really interesting. And then in terms of what was the six different types of
The
thing,
6 human needs.
the six human need? Because I think that's something that for me was very transformational. And then I think what you're saying in terms of Johannes and Tony Robbins of really trying to think about your life in a way is like, how can I contribute? And I think a lot of good things kind of come out of that.
Yeah. So for anybody listening to the podcast that hasn't been to one of these events, we talk at UPW about 6 human needs. They are certainty, uncertainty, significance, love, growth, and contribution. Most of the world is currently has their default or highest priority of those six as certainty and significance. And it's kind of like this framework of this blueprint you're living your entire life by. So if you have to know that things are certain, that money will come in the way it's coming in, that you have this place to be, like quite honestly, it's funny because I don't have a place to stay tonight. I don't know where I'm sleeping tonight, but I'll figure it out. I know it, right?
I'm the
Um,
same way. Tomorrow I have to figure out where I'm staying. I've got a place. I have a roof over my head tomorrow
I,
tonight.
I just don't know where I'm staying tonight. And that would freak a lot of people out. That would freak a lot of people out to not be knowing exactly where they're going to be sleeping tonight. So you start to have to go down this path to reprogram what the priority is in your life. And significance is another important one. Like you have to I must be significant in your life. I must that starts to kind of make these thought patterns go off that are keeping you frustrated in life. Like if you're not giving me validation, then I kind of get miserable. And that's not really helpful in my opinion.
Is significance like I'm famous, or what exactly does that mean?
It's more it's kind of from the ego. It's from I want you to be thinking about me. Like celebrities, let's say, like if they put them out, like they want you to be thinking about them. They want you to be like worshiping their presence and things like that. Versus if you can shift that to more contribution and you can still be significant. Let's say this podcast, for instance, we're, in my opinion, trying to contribute to other people's lives. We're trying to give and help other people grow versus I want you to watch this because you and I are the most important people in the world. That's not
Yeah.
what it is.
And I don't think it has to be even famous. It's like I want my, significant other to think that I'm important, or my kids, or I want to feel important in the job that I have. And if I start something new, then maybe I'm not important.
Yeah.
And that also gets into the certainty piece of it of, I want to do something new, but I'm going to suck at it. Maybe I fail. And so I think a lot of people get stuck in that. So this is the fourth episode of this podcast. I don't know how it's going to go, but hopefully it goes well. And having that, what you're saying of like wanting to contribute, wanting to share what I know, what people I can bring on the show know, and to share that with the world. And hopefully it's helpful to people, but not
Yep.
having the goal of like I need to be famous, or I want to be this person that has a really big podcast. And yeah, I think that can be really interesting. And from the event over the weekend, one of the most interesting things I think people in their day-to-day lives, like you said, it's certainty and significance. And he had people raise their hand, and it was probably 70 or 80% of people was either one or both of those. And then after we went through the exercise of kind of imagining what you really want your life to be, it went from 70 or 80% of people to maybe 5%. And so I think people realize that those are things that really hold them back of like, if I have to be good at something, I have to get recognition for it, then I can't start something new. If I need certainty, then I can't take any risks. I can't travel to the other side of the world. I can't launch a podcast. And then most people shifted to some form of focusing on love and connection, growth, um, or contribution. And I
Hmm.
think I don't know, I have the belief if you focus on the contribution part of it, that a lot of the other things are just going to kind of fall into place. So like, hey, you start to make money from it, even though that's not the initial goal. So I have some certainty economically, let's say. And then the significance, who knows, maybe it comes because you're not thinking about that. It just kind of is a result of you trying to help other people.
Yeah. And the part about it is like when people are so certainty driven and they're not willing to try new things, like imagine yourself at 10 and did you know everything in the world? Where'd you learn the things that you know today that you're so like certainty driven about like I must do? Versus driving a car is a really good one, right? Like at 15, you've never driven a car. And then you get behind the wheel and you're like so focused on trying to like learn how to drive the car. And at some point, you get to the point where you drive the car for 2 hours and you don't even remember driving down the street for 2 hours, right? Because you've now started to master that process. It's a little funny, actually. When I was 15, my dad took me to a parking lot, and it was before I got a permit, and we probably weren't supposed to be doing that, but he, like, let me drive around. And, like, at the edge of those, barriers or at the parking lot, there's, like, concrete, at the edge of a parking, spot. I drove over one of those because I had never driven a car before, and I didn't even really realize, like, "Oh, I'm supposed to press on the brake right now," and, we ended up having to pull the car out by a tow, and it was just really, like, a funny story now that I was trying something new that I didn't know how to do, and obviously, I wouldn't do that today, ideally, but there are stages of competence you have to go through, and if you're so significance and certainty driven, you might not even try these new things that later down the line, you're gonna master at it as long as you try and practice it.
How can someone have that attitude? I think people get more stuck in their ways. I think there was who was it Roberto Blake, that was this YouTuber, talked about like make 100 crappy videos. And so that scares a lot of people. Like I'm gonna make 100 and they're gonna be awful. And and most people aren't prepared for that stage. They want to be famous and making tons of
Yeah.
money and coming on somebody's podcast or whatever it is, but then the reps that get them there is I think the difficult thing for so many people.
Well, let's relate it back to those 6 human needs. Instead of, "I need to make these perfect videos that are out there in the world," I'm making these videos to share what I know, what I'm already good at. Software engineering, maybe, teaching some of the stuff we learned at Tony Robbins. And if you're super scared of posting it on social media and worrying so much about it, go post on a you could post on a platform that you have no audience on. So let's say you have no audience on TikTok. Just start a new TikTok account and start to post it. And now you're not so worried about what people are saying, and you're just contributing to other people's lives by sharing your voice. If you're really scared about it, go create a Facebook group that's private and invite 5 friends that are your biggest cheerleaders, and just start making videos for them and sharing with them what you know. Practice makes perfect. Like, that is what is gonna get you, and you just gotta the action will come, or sorry, the clarity will come through the action that you take.
Yeah, I think that's true. And in terms of sharing things, I can totally relate to that because for me, what's been scarier is posting on LinkedIn and Instagram. So those are the two that I have the most of like friends for a long period of time, or I guess Facebook too.
Yep.
Versus something on YouTube that's completely search and algorithm driven, where we create a bunch of content and someone finds it through search, and every once in a while I get a screenshot from somebody who's like, "Hey, I came across one of your videos,"
Yeah.
but it's not something that I'm kind of blasting out to my close friends all the time. So I think finding a way of doing it under a different name or finding some way to make it easier, less scary to be able to get going, and then maybe 6 months in, you share with your friends that, hey, I've been working on this YouTube channel for 6 months, and you kind of feel comfortable with what you're working on at that point to make it a little bit less public.
Absolutely, and there's a couple people that I followed. It was interesting back when I was, leaving that job, which we talked about in 2016. um, it was really big time for vlogging. Vlogging's still out there, but it's not like this, like, major thing that people are talking about all the time. I watched Casey Neistat and I watched Nas Daily, and they just started saying, "I'm gonna post every day for, like, a year," and it was crazy to see their own transformation, and it was crazy to see, like, the level of confidence that, like, Nas, if you go to YouTube and type in Nas Daily first video, and he's like this little kid. This is like, "I'm gonna make a video every day." And now this guy is, like, making videos. He has thousands of people around him in his videos. He's confident. He's running a business. Casey started posting every day. He ended up selling a company for 25 million because of this, and he didn't know where I was gonna go. But he got better and better and better at it over time, and then he just continued to create.
Yeah, I think people want to compare their first day to someone's day 835.
Yeah.
One of the things I really like about YouTube is the ability to sort someone's content by their oldest videos. So if you go to whatever person that you like to follow and then click oldest
Yeah.
and see what they created. If it's Mr. Beast or Marcus Brownlee that was like putting up golf videos when he was like 8 years old or something like that. and to see he has like the largest tech channel on YouTube right now,
Yeah.
and that transformation. And if you do that, it gives you the confidence like, oh, I can create a better first video than his first video. But obviously, I don't have this like multi-million-dollar studio or something along
Right.
those lines to create content and making the right comparisons when you're getting started.
Yeah, I mean, like, actually, I'm grateful to be here. Thank you for renting this beautiful space. But not everybody has to start with like all these cameras around us and everything like that. You can just literally start with your iPhone and recording content, and that is very powerful. And if you do shift that mentality from I'm doing this to get an audience and just get myself to have a million followers to I'm doing this to help other people grow and share what I know with the world, it helps you, in my opinion.
Yeah. My first YouTube videos, I had an iPhone 6S, I think it was, and I bought these paper lantern lights. And so
Okay.
I like hung them up in front of me
Yeah.
here and recorded the first videos that way. And there's a one video on the Figco channel that has, I don't know, 200 and some thousand views.
Wow.
It was like the third or fourth video on our channel. But it's like, yeah, you can totally do well without this microphone and lights and cameras and things like
Yeah.
that. It's like your cell phone, either natural light, whatever happens to be, and
Yeah. And then
get
you learn
going.
other things. You learn other tools. Like we could do it from an airport or whatever in that way. And then you start to add like little things like get a couple wireless mics and stuff. Over time, like obviously better and better equipment gets you in a more elevated state, but don't let the equipment stop you from taking the action.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's absolutely true. And so why don't we talk a little bit about what you mentioned earlier in terms of how could someone begin to build the life they want in terms of creating income from an idea that they have?
Yeah, so ideas can turn into income. Honestly, every idea on the planet, every business around us, including this space that we're in right now, was once an idea. It was once an idea for someone to create a space for people to sit and have a podcast interview, and we're taking advantage of their idea sometime in the past. So I would start on a self-reflection journey. Take a day with a piece of paper and say, what do I know really well, such as software development. For me, I at the time like to travel. I had done a lot of travel already. By the time I had left at 33 or 31 for my job, so I knew about New Zealand. I knew about a little bit about Europe. I knew about going sailing in Croatia. I could take what I knew from there. I could share about software development. So getting really clear on what you already know, I think, is the first step, and then taking what you know and starting to understand, okay, if I was interested in it at some point, someone else is probably interested in it as well. How do I translate that and start to give people the ability to use what has helped me and offer that to somebody else? One thing that we talked a little about expansive energy and getting inspired a little bit. Music is one way that really helps me. And
I created a playlist after the event. I started putting
yeah,
together some of the songs that are like, all right, this will get me into a better state to go and get something done.
absolutely. And those songs that we played at UPW, plus anything that really inspires you, I would recommend you just make a playlist in Spotify or whatever app you're using. And I started doing that. And then I would have these anchors that would bring me back to that emotional state and that expansive energy, as well as sometimes I'll just get up in the morning and go walk around and dance a little bit as I'm like getting ready to go get my coffee or something. The thing about that is now you have created a digital asset for other people. Now you can start to share that with them. And if you can share that playlist that helped you, and then they start to like listen to it in the morning, they're going to remember you, right? You're creating these little bits of trust. And that's what business is all about, is building trust enough so that people actually hand over their credit card and offer to transfer some money to you to get more value from you.
Yeah, so I think right now and with everything going on with AI, this gets even easier. So how would you recommend someone that has an idea of their energetic state or whatever it is that they have in their mind to come up with what a good idea would be for their way to make money?
Yeah, so AI has changed the game in so many ways, and I think we're still at the very like baby, like even infant stages of this new movement that we're going through. Um, what I would say would be start little by little, start to understand what's the process you want to go through. if we take this podcast that we're doing right now, you've got video happening around us, you've got audio recording. We've got to get this out to the world in a way. So some of those things that you're going to probably have to do, you're going to have to edit it. You're going to have to create a description. You're going to have to ask me about like some links maybe we want to share with the audience. Like I told you about the ebook I would share with the audience earlier on the podcast. And what you can start to do is you can start to use AI to kind of like simplify that process. And something that could have taken you a week to do before, where you're trying to do all that yourself, well, maybe I just talk to ChatGPT. Like, can you? This is what Patrick's bio is. This is what we were talking about in the podcast. With the transcription, can you create a little description, a 3 sentence description for me? Can you then take that and turn that into an Instagram or a LinkedIn post for me? I always still recommend, by the way, anybody listening to this, that's the start. Go edit it yourself. Make sure it's in your tone of voice. It can get better and better over time, but it's a way for you to not be so blocked to actually get all this stuff done, because actually creating something in the world can take a lot of time and energy. Then you can start to say, okay, well, now I want to create an offer from that. I want to start to offer people the ability to jump on a workshop call with me, or I want to offer them a one-on-one training session. And you start to like do that a few times, and then you start to charge for them, and it goes from there.
Yeah, I really like that. One of the things that I had this idea more recently. It's stuff that we've done for some of our coursework, but we have in Spanish at least we've taught I don't know a few thousand people to start their YouTube channel. But the difficulty with that, it's like it may take them a whole day to edit a video, plus coming up with the idea, recording the video, and it just it takes a long time before someone really sees results from that. But I think with AI, one of the things that I've been thinking about a lot is, and we're doing some work around is kind of iterating with AI on what your offer is. So there's something you're passionate about right now. Maybe it's making sourdough bread or being a digital nomad or whatever in the world it is, to have a conversation back and forth and be like, what is something I could offer? And come up with that initial idea. Like, here's the offer. You can also work with AI to create the sales page to then be able to accept money for it.
Yep.
So you have a digital product, you have the sales page for it. And I think the fastest way to get results is if you have a little bit of money saved up, maybe it's $1,000 or $2,000, is to then use AI to help you create ads. And so with that, you basically have ads, you have the offer, you have what you're going to be giving to somebody, and within a matter of weeks, you can essentially get in front of X thousands of people doing the right targeting, and then get an idea of like, hey, is this something that has legs or not? As opposed to, hey, I've been creating YouTube content or a podcast for
Yep.
6 months or a year. Maybe people like this, maybe they don't, but I just got to keep going to be able to kind of test something in, maybe you spend a couple weekends over a month to kind of build that out. And then you're like, hey, should I spend more time in this? Do I want to just learn how to do ads better and make my product better? Or then start a podcast, then start a YouTube channel, then doing all these things and I think that it would be much tougher a year ago or longer ago to come up with each of those pieces.
Yep.
And so you have this ally to be able to just go back and forth with to create all of these things, and then all of a sudden show up with the world, and there you go.
Yeah.
You have your income stream, and then figure out how to make that better from there.
And one thing that I also think that will, in my opinion, leap you to the next level quickly, and it's a part of my core foundational coaching that I go through with people to build their online business, is doing an online event. You can
Hmm.
call it a webinar, you can call it a masterclass, you can call it a gathering. I don't care what you call it. That's a really fast way, in my opinion. There's actually a platform called Luma that I
Hmm.
encourage people to use. And all it takes is a title, a time, and a description. And you click go. And then now you can share this link with people. And then that's going to get them in your energy. We talked about energy, right?
Yeah.
And you're so worried about making videos and getting an audience and getting all this stuff done. Well, if you get 10 people, 20 people on a call, you're now directly interacting with someone that's asking you questions and giving real feedback, and you're sharing with them directly, and you're creating a digital asset at the same time. If you record it, that can be valuable for you and your business in the future. And it gets you past this, like, oh my gosh, I'm so worried about making a video and what people are going to think of me, because it's only the 10 people who are showing up on the Zoom call that you're going to care about. And it's not as scary, in my opinion. And if you get people to take that action, then they start to take the next one and the next one and the next one.
Yeah, I really like that. I think a live event, doing something through Zoom is a lot easier. So if anybody, like, I feel bad for my video editors to see all the times that I screw up all the time and I like repeat the same thing 15 times.
Yeah.
But with you sitting in front of me or on a Zoom call with 30 other people that you're explaining something, it focuses you so much more where you're able to create something of value without stuttering over your words too much and creating something that's pretty good. And so I think that that's a great idea to, yeah, to do something where you have somebody there live, and
Yep.
then obviously, with anything, if you get 10 people to join and one of them wants to work with you, then hey, you've got a business right there. One of the things I want to ask about too that has come up quite a bit. What do you think in terms of doing something online like that and then doing something in person? So I think you can use Loom as well to create a in-person event.
Yeah. So it's kind of like what is currently available to you on something like Nomad Cruise or something like we're all together. Super easy to just like throw up an event and say, "Hey, 10 people are going to show up," and then you do it. Honestly encourage everyone. Yes, go do an in-person event if that's what you are called to do and you feel like you're confident in doing. It is the best way. Obviously, we were just 4 days with Tony Robbins, and then people are buying $10,000, $15,000 packages to the next level, right? That is the best way. However, there's a lot of logistics around that as well that sometimes will block you from taking that action to make it happen. Oh, I got to find a venue. Oh, I got to it's not just the 1 hour time that I'm getting people in person, it's the setup time. I got to find a room. I got to make sure the cleaning lady comes. There's all this extra stuff that you have to think about for the in person event that, again, if you want to do that, do it. However, an online 1 hour, 90-minute event is really easy also for you. And it gets you to take that action. And then you're on the call for 90 minutes max. Please don't do more than 90 minutes. People get bored on Zoom after 90 minutes, in my opinion. And after that 90 minutes, you get to go back to your life. You go back to your day. And it's not just the people that are local to you. Like right now, I guess there are people here in Cologne because we just finished Tony Robbins. But in a few days, I won't know anybody in Cologne. So I'd have to put a lot of energy to find random people in Cologne to join my online event versus if I
Your
throw it
in-person event, yeah.
my in person,
Yeah.
excuse me, I would have to find random people to join my in person event in Cologne versus if I put it off on an online event, I can get hundreds of people all over the world to join me at that same time.
Yeah, I like that. But one other thing, just riffing off a little bit. So a lot of the digital nomad events do what's called an unconference. So they'll allow you to basically go and pitch your idea of like, hey, I want to talk about X,
Yep.
and they'll give you the space for it. And if there's a couple hundred people there, then having 10 or 20 or whatever people show up to your in person event, or just for example, there's for YouTubers, there's Vid Summit. There's like 1,000 people that go to Dallas every year, and if you have an idea of like, again, with the proximity of like being around like-minded people, of like, if you want to be a video editor and you want, where would be a good place to get tons of clients? It would be, hey, how can I pitch that and be around the right people? So I think that there's benefits to both. I've, after doing so much online, of like love doing
Yeah.
things in person. But obviously, if you're in a small town, don't really know anybody, and putting something up online is the by far the easiest way. But building the face-to-face connections is something that I would, you know, is another huge thing somebody could do.
Yeah, I agree. And if you can come to something like Tony Robbins and go to Cologne, even if you go to the event or don't go to the event and you run your own little like meetups, like say, hey, we're gonna all gonna go to dinner tonight together or whatever, you're putting the energy out there and the intention for other people to provide value by just meeting each other. And I ran a few workshops on Nomad Cruise. I think you came to one or two of them, and that always creates some type of connection that wouldn't have been there around the conference. So I really encourage people too to like put the intention and go to different conferences and do those unconference events that showcase their skill set.
Yeah, absolutely. And why don't we talk a little bit about AI, some of the things that you're working on, and some of the opportunities that you think exist for somebody who either maybe think about it in at least two different ways. Of somebody who has a business, how can they use AI better? And then somebody who maybe doesn't have a business, who's doing something they're not happy with, how maybe they could use AI to either what we talked about, come up with their business idea or maybe get paid to do something AI related?
Yeah, so let's start with the one that has the business. You can use your skills and what you're doing already and do it a lot faster with AI. So, the first thing I would say is start to recognize your own process. If you are writing every single thing for, let's say, your blog posts, you're writing the blog posts, then you put the blog posts online, then you generate the Instagram posts for that, then you generate the LinkedIn post, then you manually upload those, all that kind of stuff, right? Start to recognize the workflow beneath the work of actually getting that blog post out and getting people to read that blog post. Well, with AI, I'm working on an app that actually you can pretty much speak to your computer, speak to your app, and it will generate the blog post. And then it's going to generate that Instagram post. Then it's going to generate that LinkedIn post. And it's actually going to post it for you. And I can now envision, it's not quite there yet. I have pieces of it built, but I'm working on the final step. So hopefully by the time this comes out, maybe there will be a first beta version that people can sign up for. But it allows you to take the idea for a post and get that done in minutes, if not hours, that would have taken maybe a week to do before. So you're able to do a lot more with AI a lot faster. I'm also working on, if people are interested in building apps, AI coding is incredible. I think it's one of the most powerful things you can do with AI right now is take an idea and turn it into software. However, there's still a lot of technical pieces that people are unaware of, that you still need sound software engineering principles to actually make that happen. I think you may have tried Lovable or some of these other platforms so
Yeah,
far.
I've used Cursor.
Cursor, yeah. So if you build with AI, these software platforms, it will get you 50, 60% of the way there pretty quickly. That might be even a little much.
Well, it depends on how complicated, I
Yeah,
guess. So, like, I
yeah,
built a language learning, like, flashcard app that
yeah.
had audio built into it. So, it was like to learn the new word and then created a dozen sentences per word and then had the audio pronouncing the word and the sentences. So, it was like seeing and hearing and to see the vocabulary that was important
Yep.
and got it working on its own and maybe a day's worth of work, a half hour, 15 minutes, whatever, over a couple of weeks and had it up on the internet. Obviously, if it was something I was like going to sell and want to get all the bugs out, that there's a bit more work to be done on that. But no, I found it to be super powerful to
Yeah,
be able
and you
to
can now
to
you
create
take
that.
your idea and get it out there a lot faster, right?
Yeah.
And you didn't have to be as technical to actually know how to get that out. So I think that's incredible. I think that's going to enable a lot more people to become online entrepreneurs and business owners now
Mhm.
because they can do this without having to go to 20 years of school and doing software development for
Or
20
needing
years.
$50,000 to hire a bunch of engineers to work on something. So I think what you were saying, there's the current process of like, what do you spend time on? What does your team spend time on? Are there ways to speed those things up to make your life a lot easier? And then around building apps and things like that could also be for that of like process that you already have for your business, as well as I've kind of been thinking about ways to create some type of software, let's say that gives you recurring income. So if it's a customer client facing app that you build, then obviously you could have some type of subscription around that.
Yep.
And so it's like what other like optimization and then also the additional income streams that could come online because you have this software that you built.
Yeah, and that's really where I think my business is going and what I want to help other people with is once you're at a certain level and you know you're successfully serving clients and customers, building systems to get you to the next level. I actually have, funny enough, a podcasting company that I know the guy that owns it. They're at about $2 million of revenue right now, and they asked me to kind of develop a prototype for an app that would get their processes streamlined and give them a proprietary piece of software that they think would that then take that 2 million to 10, 20, 30 because they've created a system through a custom software app. And that's
Yeah.
really where I'm going to go.
Yeah, we're looking at that for content creation of like, hey, this the ideas and scripting for YouTube videos, and then also being able to create something for Instagram or TikTok or LinkedIn or other social channels. Like how to speed up that whole piece much more easily.
Yep. Yeah, and like little things, like going back to the first example, like okay, let's say the YouTube thumbnail. Like people charge lots of money to do that on Upwork. You might have to go back and forth with a designer quite a bit to actually get something you like. What if you could have an AI like easily just generate the thumbnail from the transcript of the recording? That's going to save you time and money.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of resources around that I can share down below for people interested of like it's a matter, I think, of doing the research on what AI tools exist. So there's quite a few really good ones around content creation. Poppy's one that we like. There's one around thumbnails that we just started testing as well, but I'll share those down below in the show notes. But it's like what already exists, and hey, does that make things good enough, or maybe you see that it doesn't yet exist, and you're like, hey, here's a new opportunity for a business very related to what I'm already doing.
Yeah, and like all these things, usually if the company is big enough, there might be a whole job actually for people to do these processes. But if you're getting started out and you don't have don't have the money to hire someone or do it, um, you can do this a lot faster, and you're able to do things that previously would have taken you a lot of extra time and frustration sometimes.
What what do you think the opportunity for somebody who doesn't have a business right now, maybe they're doing something they're not super happy with, to potentially create something around AI? So as an example of yeah, to create a software would be one option, or just tons of business owners. I was part of a mastermind and we had someone talking about AI, and I could just imagine each person that was there of how they could use AI to either streamline or to create a new income stream. How could somebody who's maybe young and hungry learn something? Because they're not too far behind someone who is an expert in AI
Yep.
compared to like a business owner that has no free time to look into this. How could somebody maybe create a service offering something AI related to business owners?
So I would start again back to that what am I already good at question. What do I like to do? And what do I know already? And then start to be like, okay, well, if I'm currently an employee, let's say I'm a marketer at some company in Manhattan. I know marketing. I've been doing it for this company for a couple of years. I know what it takes. Okay, well, let's go find some marketing and AI tools that I could use to kind of do that for other people. And now I'm going to start to take those skills and take the AI tools and merge them together. And then I can go find a couple companies that I could help on the side while I'm still working at my normal 9 to 5 job or wherever I am right now and play with that. And like start to help people using AI tools plus what I already know. And once I get some success with that, I can do that again. I can do that again and make it better and better. And eventually that'll turn into you having the ability to leave that job or whatever your current situation is and just help other people.
I like that. Why don't we talk about where you are right now? We were talking at the very beginning of this, some of the things that the areas you're looking to grow right now.
Yep.
So maybe talk about some of the areas of your life that the situation that maybe we haven't touched on before, and then how are you trying to make changes in those areas?
Yeah. So this Tony Robbins thing, which you talked about earlier, since this is my 20th event, I now am a team lead for the crew often when I do these events, and that has allowed me to start to practice being a leader. And if I can, it's kind of nice because I do this for 4 days, even though it's very intense and there's a lot of things going on. After the event is done, I have no responsibility to that thing anymore, right? So it gave me the opportunity several times actually already because I've done team lead a couple times um, to practice being a leader. And then I started to recognize other areas. What does it take to be a leader? Clarity. If you're going to tell 100 people in a group chat what to do, you better be clear because otherwise you're going to really confuse them, right? So I'm getting practicing leadership skills. I'm getting practice being clear. I'm getting practice doing things that will get me to become the director instead of the doer. And that's actually what AI is enabling us to do now is becoming the directors of the AI instead of the doers of the task.
And you need to be clear with AI as well. So
Yes,
that with leadership and with leading AI, I think that's important.
it is very important. And I think that's why I've been able to be successful to build apps in a much faster way in the last few months because I know the vocabulary, I know what I'm looking for, and I know what needs to be built, so I can tell the AI exactly what to do to build it. And if you don't know those things, then it's difficult to tell the AI what to actually do. So I'm looking to grow in that area so that I can direct instead of do as much, and then leveraging either employees or AI to get more done so I can make more money in my business and grow my business and make a bigger impact. So that's really where I'm looking to grow right now, is kind of becoming the owner of my business, not the operator of everything. And then I get to do what I love to do. Like, this is one thing that's really exciting to me, is doing podcast interviews. I would happily do more of these all over the world. Going to more conferences. I want to learn. I want to learn how to fly. I want to learn how to like pilot or skipper a boat. I think that'd be really fun. So in order to do those things and grow, and DJ is another one I really want to learn how to do. I have to learn how to direct either AI or employees or consultants to do more work for me, and trust that they're getting it done and it's all aligned to the bigger vision, so that I get to do more stuff that actually makes me fulfilled in life as well.
Yeah, I like that. What do you think about the difference? Because I think you have tons of interests, right? And how do you feel about? So I just finished this book by Benjamin Hardy on the science of scaling, where his idea is to have like one impossible goal with an impossible deadline, and you basically like everything else falls to the wayside because you know the only way to get there is by doing this along this route. And that's obviously one way of thinking of being fairly narrow minded, but able to get kind of massive results from something.
Yep.
Versus having a lot of different interests and if it's professional or personal interests, do you find it harder to make progress on those? Do you care if you're making progress as much as you could in one area or another? Or for you, is balance really important? How do you think about the breadth versus depth of the things that you're working on?
Yeah, obviously focus is important. Where your focus goes, energy flows, which is what we talked about at the event as well. I think alignment is a really important thing to think about in terms of that. Yes, I have a lot of interests, but I focus on the ones that I feel like I can accomplish well right now, and it's aligned to the higher purpose of what I'm looking to actually have a result of. You sparked my mind a minute ago when you said like one big thing to focus on and get that going. One thing I like to focus on, I actually want to buy a resort, and I want to create a space where we all can gather, and we have maybe a podcast studio, and it's on the beach in Tulum, I hope, or somewhere beautiful. And it's a space that's kind of like Nomad Cruise or Tony Robbins, but you can always go there. And they have a bar and a restaurant that are healthy drinks and healthy meals and all that kind of stuff, right?
Let's do
Let's do
it.
it. That's the goal. And we have a spa and a sauna and all that stuff is there. If that's the bigger vision, well, what's aligned to that? We're probably going out and drinking every night and partying in Las Vegas in that way. Maybe that's not aligned to it. But if we're bringing people together in Las Vegas and having workshops that inspire people and teach people how to grow and expand, and the methodology and the mindset around that is aligned to what we want to create in this resort that I want to build, that's aligned to actually making that dream happen.
Okay.
And okay, well, going to Tony Robbins and crewing for a little bit of time, 4 or 5 days that I've been here doing that. This is aligned to that bigger vision because I meet people that want to have that vision. Like, we just high five, right? We want to go
I
do that
have a similar
together,
idea.
right?
Yeah.
So we're aligned to that thing. So as long as you can align what you're taking action on a daily basis and it feels good and expansive towards your end goal. And I think that's the biggest thing. I think we talked about it actually at the event, was there's a success formula, and knowing your outcome is a really important part of your success formula. So if you don't know the outcome, right now the outcome is that resort. Well, I better start taking actions that are aligned to that result. And if it's not aligned to that result, it's not going to happen. So lastly, just to kind of end that thought, Like, there are many things I could do right now. The next Nomad cruise is happening. I would love to be there. It's a 27-day cruise, though. It is exciting to me to the idea of going on that and going to these islands with it, but is it aligned to what I'm really trying to create right now? Unfortunately, it's not. So I'm deciding that I am not actually going to join that. And what I need to do is stop traveling for a little bit and put focus into building systems and working on content and having a little bit more stability for a period of time. So I'm making the decision that that's not aligned to this bigger goal in this moment. And I'm making sure that I'm spending my energy doing the things that are aligned to that goal.
Yeah. Yeah, I really like that. And so for where you are now and traveling as a digital nomad and building a business around AI, um, how do you see some of the changes that you need to make to help you get to the point of having the resort? I think you mentioned before we started recording in terms of like having maybe a couple of places around the world where you would spend time that, yeah, why don't you talk a little bit about some of the things you've been thinking through, some of your lessons learned? I think
Yeah.
for both of us who travel quite a bit, of there's obviously pros and cons to that lifestyle, and so there's some things that you have in mind that you'd like to do to kind of have a more balanced life, I would say.
Yeah. One thing I wish I had, many people said it over the last 9, 10 years of this lifestyle, but I didn't take it to heart as much. And now I wish I had, is building systems from the start. Um, like momentum is going to sustain because of the system that supports that momentum. Right now, I didn't work for the last 4 or 5 days, right? I did work, but I didn't work on my business for the last 4 or 5 days, at least not directly. So means content wasn't created. It means software wasn't being built. It means um, there wasn't lead generation happening. So I need to spend some time to build a system for each one of those. And I'm really good at AI now if I'm sitting at the computer typing and talking to the AI. However, can I create a system so that I can be out in the world on my phone and just type into my phone a little bit and have the AI do something for me? Or have a form that gets customer feedback and that actually makes my software product better. So there's all these little things that will make that easier, as well as focusing on a little bit more revenue to maybe hire an assistant and delegate more tasks and stuff like that too.
Okay. What has been some of the difficulties of living a nomadic lifestyle, not having a home base? What have been some of the and we can talk about the pros too. What have been some of the pros and then some of the cons of yeah, being on the road all the time?
The pros are I constantly get inspired by travel. I get like when I shift a city, I it takes about a day sometimes to like get used to it, but once I do, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm like exploring. I'm seeing like these like amazing buildings, like the Cologne Cathedral that I went into. I get to see a lot and I get inspired and I get new ideas when I travel. So that's really, really good. I get to meet people. I get to have crazy things like walking across the bridge in Cologne, and I see a friend from Nomad Cruise. Actually, the photographer for was there, Ronnie, like literally right outside of the Cologne Cathedral, and I'm like, "Hey, Ronnie, what's going on?" And I hadn't seen him since Nomad Cruise. So I get like all these really cool things happen. I get to change up my lifestyle. That actually slows life down, in my opinion. It seems like life is faster actually sometimes when you're doing that, but it actually makes you remember life, and that's why it slows down. Because I can't really remember every day that I was living in New York City 5 years away. It's kinda like Groundhog Day. But I can remember almost every day, or at least every period of the last 6 years of my life since I left my job and I started to do the more of this lifestyle. So that's a really powerful thing, and you get to experience life, you get to make a bigger impact. The downsides are, well, right now I have no clean clothes. I put this one on because it was like the best thing I had. You're traveling out of a suitcase. You need to like constantly think about logistics. Like I don't know where I'm sleeping tonight, which causes you to have other things to think about that aren't necessarily keeping your business going or pushing you in the direction that you want to be on all areas of that final outcome. So that's something I'm thinking about. How do I balance that more? One thing I've been setting the intention for, and I hope that we have a really fun welcome party, home. What do you call those? Like housewarming party one day. I want to buy my first one. I think in Tulum is like a 2 or 3 bedroom condo, so my stuff is always there. Like I can always go there, and I can rent out to my friends. And then obviously one in the United States and maybe one in Europe. Starting to focus on building those type of environments that kind of like give me that more stability while I can still live this lifestyle. That's important too.
Yeah, hit the ground running as opposed to, yeah, where am I doing laundry?
Yeah.
Where can I get good coffee? Will they let me use my laptop there? Well, where can I get exercise and all those different things that kind of you have to go through in each new place that you've gone to. But if it's like, yeah, you have your wardrobe, you have your
Yeah.
here's where I go to the gym, here's where I do all this stuff. I have this, group of friends that lives there. And so you're kind of plugged in going back to somewhere that feels like home.
Yeah, and that's important. Like, there's a few cities that I know, like, if I just show up in, I can get the ground running. I know what to do, and I get inspired when I go back there. I'm like, oh, this city's like Budapest is one of my favorite ones. I always love going to Budapest and like just hanging out there for a month. I found Antwerp actually. Antwerp, Belgium, was really great for that. It felt like I was like in this little city that I could go to the gym. I went to the gym a couple times there. Was able to get a lot of work done. I went to the spa. So yeah, like that's part of the problem with nomad life is if you're ending up in a random city that you don't know how's the infrastructure to support the lifestyle that you know that will keep you productive, it can actually be detrimental to your like progress. But if you kind of set yourself up for success and have a few cities around the world where you know like, okay, if I go there, I already got the stuff I need, that's very helpful.
Really good. And so, what I wanted to know for you, if somebody right now is in a situation where they feel stuck in terms of their professional life, their romantic life, the city that they're living in, and they know they want to change, but there's something holding them back, what what recommendations would you have for them?
Not everybody's gonna like this, but get on an airplane. Like, that's the first thing I would do is get on an airplane. And I don't think you have to do what probably you and I did, which was change your entire life to do it. I would just recommend that you go somewhere for 2 weeks to a month and change up the energy. Because when you change your environment, you change what you're thinking about. Like that, the same idea of like, I gotta figure out where to go get coffee. I gotta figure out where to do my laundry. That's actually a good thing in many ways too, because now you're breaking the pattern of what you were doing and you get to think of new things you could do. You get
Yeah.
to think new ideas, new experiences. That's the first thing I would do. Take a trip somewhere. Ideally, take a trip somewhere where there's like-minded people around. Like, if you go to Bali, I'm sure you can meet a bunch of awesome people. If you go to Europe, especially in the summertime, I've never been to Europe in the wintertime. Summertime in Europe, like, go to a hostel. Like, if you're open to hostels, go to a hostel and go meet people and go travel and stuff like that. Go find an environment that supports the lifestyle that you want to live. And then take some time to reflect. Take some time to get up in the morning and journal, think of like what you want to do next, and then take little actions. Social media is an incredible tool in a way that people don't often think about. It's going to help you grow, it's going to help you get clear. When you take your ideas and try to share them with other people, you got to structure it. You got to put it in a way that people will be interested in it. And that causes you a level of growth too through that.
I really like that. I would add maybe, well, one, you get away for a weekend if you want to, like, hey, at least a
Yeah.
couple days somewhere new to reset. But maybe even try to combine that week to couple weeks to what's an event around what I want to do. So is it going to Tony Robbins and then hanging
Mhm.
out somewhere else for 2 weeks, or going to Vid Summit and meeting a bunch of YouTubers and then having a couple of weeks to think about wanting to do that. But I
Yeah.
think, yeah, how can you, what you were saying, being around like-minded people and being out of your day-to-day rut that you're in, someplace else to have the motivation, all these new ideas and energies that are going to come from something like that.
And like, I have a question for you. Yeah. Like, did you feel like the high energy environment was helpful to kind of make shifts or like think of new ideas while you were at this event?
Oh, absolutely. I think, so there was so much jumping around, dancing, screaming, hugging, high-fiving that it's hard to not, have a huge smile on your face and really think really big. And so I think to be stuck in the day-to-day of like what you were describing, your life in New York, or I'm sure a lot of people find themselves in right now. And so to be around a bunch of people that are, moving towards something gives you the energy to, well, the energy, and then maybe the confidence that you can go and do something. So I think, yeah, finding yourself in a place like this where you can look around and you're like, hey, they're doing something crazy or different too. Like maybe I'm not the only one that's doing this.
And if we are scaring anybody that you have to get on an airplane and things like that, actually, I would say also do it in your own city. Go to an event, go try something new. If you've never done yoga, go to a yoga class. If you've never gone to an art gallery event, go to an art gallery event. Do something new locally and meet new people on the way and continue to try to push yourself to do at least one a week while you're getting started. And then eventually you might need to go meet those people in Los Angeles or somewhere else. But just do it locally. Do what is comfortable to you in the moment that will get you to take the action to actually continue down that path.
Yeah, don't wait 6 months of like what can I do this coming weekend
Yeah.
that breaks, as you were saying, breaking the pattern of like what's the interrupt from the day-to-day of just kind of the monotony that you've been doing.
Yeah, because not everybody's going to be able to go to Europe for the summer. And then that's a lot of, I get that. I understand that not everybody's going to be able to do that and get on that airplane, but you can take this weekend and decide, I'm going to try something new. Oh, and also maybe take a day without a phone. Like that's a really powerful thing.
Yeah,
Like,
bring
bring
this,
a
a
notebook
pen, and
and a
leave your phone
pen.
at home.
And if you're really concerned about that, at least turn your phone completely off so you have it, but you're not checking it all the time and get yourself into a new environment where you're not like diving into that phone all day long.
I like that. I like that. I think that's a good place to stop. If someone wants to learn more about all the things you're working on, where should they go?
So my Instagram and my website are the same, Patrick Farrell, FARRELL.LIFE. I have a lot of resources on my blog already that you can use to kind of get new ideas and new inspiration. I also am on LinkedIn. You can just search for my name, Patrick Farrell. And I would love to offer your audience again that ebook. So I'll send you the link for them to fill that out and get that sent to them.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you very much.